Good morning. I'm mocking Gary because I always like it when he does that and always wants me to say it. We got a couple minutes as people are coming in. I wanted to let you know that the good thing about me being third on the list of people that are teaching is Gary follows me. So whatever happens today, he can clean up next week. Okay? So be prepared for that. The other thing is every now and then, I need a nod or a smile or something to kind of give me an idea that you're awake and listening, and that somehow you may not agree with me, but you're giving me the power to continue on. And that helps the speaker. Other thing is this. I want you to know, I teach my best lessons going 70 miles an hour down the road. So I have taught this lesson for 3 weeks. Excellent when I travel. So if you're not real pleased with it today, you'll have to try to get in my head and catch one of those lessons that I was doing as I was traveling down the road. So that kind of gets us started. If you would, go ahead and turn in your Bibles to 3 different spots and either get a piece of paper or hold your finger in those spots. I want to go to Matthew 8:28. Just starting there, you can mark that. And on your outline where it says Mark 5:1, that should be 1 through 21. My typist, I guess, was causing some problems. I used a different one from Gary. By the way, every now and then you have to laugh at one of my jokes too. And turn to Luke 8, starting in verse 26. Now, in all of our lessons, we kind of start out with just a quick review. Okay? And I want you to know this lesson's either going to last 5 minutes or 2 hours. Either way, the bell's going to ring and we're going to go to sermon, or to the next portion of our worship. So, Ron talked last week about the busy day that Jesus was having. You know, it's got to be very taxing on the body to be the Son of God, to be healing, to be teaching and preaching, and just the crowds of people that are constantly around you. It's probably kind of hard to move around, you know, and it's just could be tiring to you. But the Son of God did it. Now, the people in the audience may have been people that believed in Him, and it may have been people that just thought, hey, this guy put the Pharisees down. I'm going to follow him and see what he does to them next. Or I'm going to follow him and see when he gets caught. Either way, there's just a massive crowd around it. So what does he do? In Mark 4:35, he says, hey, let's go to the other side. Well, the other side of what? The other side of the Sea of Galilee. Why does he want to go over to the other side to get rest? Well, we're going to find out in a little bit, because the other side is basically a non-Jewish area. There's just Gentiles, and maybe they're thinking, if we go over there, we can get some rest. There's not going to be a big crowd. Everything will be a little bit better for us. We can get some rest. So they get in the boat, and several boats around them, and they start sailing east, which would be a 2-hour trip, typically. Every time I think about this, I think of Gilligan's Island, 3-hour tour, and that song pops into my head. Okay, I'm not going to sing it, but they went on a 2-hour trip, and the 2-hour trip turned into possibly an all-nighter, because into the trip, what happens? Jesus is asleep in the stern, wind comes up, they get scared, they run to him, and he gets up and he calms the sea. Now, these people have been watching him do all these miracles. They had been watching him heal, and they've been watching him cast out demons, but now he has calmed nature. So this man is not only the Son of God, not only healing people, not only knocking out demons, but now he can calm nature. So, the reason I say the all-nighter is because when they left, it was evening. Okay, and our story is going to pick up when they reached the other side. By the way, the Sea of Galilee, not really a sea. Did y'all know that? It's a lake. Sea of Galilee is a sea just because of tradition, is what they call it. It's actually a lake. It's, I can give you some, it's average 84 feet deep. The deepest part is 141 feet. It's 64 square miles. It's Israel's largest source of fresh drinking water. It's always been significant because of the commercial fishing out of it. If you want to Google it, you can find out what kind of fish. It's not bass and it's not crappie. And it's not catfish. It may be, but that's not listed in there. So they crossed the sea. The reason I say that it may have been an all-nighter, and I don't know for sure, but what happens the land on the other side. They went to if you look at the account of Matthew 8:28, it says the people of Gadarenes. The people of Gadarenes. And a lot of people say, well, there's a contradiction in the Bible because Luke and Mark say the country of the Gerasenes. They go, well, that's two different places. Well, it's kind of like this. I'm going to explain it like this. This Tiberia used to be a port on the Sea of Galilee on the western side. Okay? So if you say these were, did I say that right? Tiberias. Okay? Tiberias was a small port. So if you say, well, those people are from Tiberia, that would be true. Those people are also from Galilee because Galilee was a bigger region. So these are both correct. But a lot of people try to pinpoint, well, that's a contradiction. But it's not. Those are people from that region. What about the people on the other side? We've already mentioned this. The people on the other side were mostly Gentile. There may have been some Jews there, but it was mostly Gentile with a lot of Greek influence. They were not really familiar with Jesus. Then we get into the demon-possessed. Let's read Matthew 8:28. By the way, I told y'all to put your fingers in there. What I did is I copied each account on a piece of paper, so you won't see me flipping through my Bible. And when he came to the other side, to the country of Gadarenes, two demon-possessed men confronted him as they were coming out of the tombs. They were so extremely violent that no one could pass by that way. Now let's read the account of Mark 5. When he got out of the boat, immediately a man from the tombs with an unclean spirit met him. Now let's read Luke 8:27. When they stepped out onto the land, a man from the city met him who was possessed with demons, that he had not put on clothing for a long time and was not living in a house again, but among the tombs. Now, right off the bat there, you see Matthew said there's two men that come at him. Luke and John say there's one man. Again, if you Google it and you see that, the Bible contradicts itself. Were there two or were they one? Well, the first thing, let me back up just a little bit, is they saw them coming. So it seems to me like maybe it was first light. They could see. That's why I think maybe it was an all-nighter on the Sea of Galilee. But they were coming at them. Was it two men or was it one? Was Matthew right or was Luke and John right? Hey, I could do thumbs up and thumb down and get your idea on that, but it really wouldn't matter. Because if you think about Matthew being a tax collector, he was a detail for numbers, right? So he said two. Luke and John said one, so they basically focused on the one that was the worst from all of the scholars that I read. Okay? So that's where you get the discrepancy from that, whether it was two or one. He was isolated and living in the tombs. He was naked and he had a history of violence. Let's read the rest of the rest of Mark and Luke's account on that. Starting in 3. He lived among the tombs, and no one was able to bind him anymore, not even with a chain, because he had often been bound with shackles and chains, and the chains had been torn apart by him, and the shackles broken in pieces, and no one was strong enough to subdue him. Constantly, night and day, he was screaming among the tombs and in the mountains and cutting himself with stones. Luke's account. And when he stepped out of the land, a man from the city met him who was possessed with demons, and he had not put on clothing for a long time, and he was not living in a house, but among the tombs, and seeing Jesus. We're going to stop there. So, immediately, they get out, and they see this naked dude running at them. Now, that's got to be a vision that you just don't want to have to see, right? But this guy is possessed. He is so possessed that they have bound him before in chains and shackles, and he broke free and was living in the tombs. What are the tombs? That's where dead folks, not where they live, but that's where dead folks were, in the tombs. So he was living in tombs. He was cutting himself. He was just totally out of character of what you would think of a normal person would be. So in your mind, do you envision this demon-possessed person when they got out of the boat, they see, and here we go, we come over here for rest, right? No rest there. So, they're demons. Okay, what are demons, though? We always talk about demons. Jesus cast demons out, but what are demons? From Scripture, we can talk about what demons are or their characteristics, their attributes. Look in Matthew 8:16. Chapter 8, verse 16. When evening came, they brought to him many who were demon-possessed, and he cast out the spirits with the word and healed all that were ill. So we know that there from Scriptures that demons are spirits, right? So flip over to Mark 1:14. (124). Did I say 14? No wonder I was on the wrong page. See, that's what happens when you get nervous. (114). (24). Saying that, what business do we have with each other of Jesus of Nazarene? Haven't you come to destroy us? I know who you are, the Holy One of God. So the demons are intelligent, right? So they have intelligence. They can recognize and know that Jesus is the Son of God. So demons have intelligence. We know from, and we'll look at this later, that the wicked, the demons will face judgment. All right, but here's the big question. We kind of know what they are. We know they're spirits. We know they're intelligent. And we know that they will face judgment. Okay, but where did they come from? That's the big question. If you know that answer specifically, and you can prove that answer, you are way beyond me and most Bible scholars, because I have searched and I have searched and I have searched, and it's made me more and more confused. If you read this part, you'll find out, well, this is an idea about where they may come from. If you read over here, this is where they may have come from. The key word there is may. You won't find in Scripture specifically where demons come from. Now, let me say this. Some people are thinking, well, what about Jude 1:6? What about 2 Peter 2:24? That talks about angels, right? Angels will be judged. Angels will be cast out. They have an opportunity to do right or wrong. They have free will. But it doesn't specifically talk about demons. So let's think. I've got something that I have that Wayne Jackson, and we quote him a lot, wrote about the origin of demons. So instead of me pretending to know something and put it out there that he wrote, I'm just going to read it to you. Okay? But I want you to listen carefully of the reasons that or where we think demons come from. Now let me go ahead and tell you, the last bullet on there you're not going to hear because it didn't really come from COVID. I just put that in from fun. If you're looking at your notes, this is where you smile, where we're kind of into this, and you smile that I put COVID, where demons come from. Okay. Origin of demons. Spirit entities known as demons did inhabit and affect human bodies during that age. However, the question of demon origin is not spelled out in the Scriptures. Several theories have been advanced by Bible students, most of which, incidentally, may be dismissed immediately. Some, for instance, have suggested that demons are the disembodied spirits of a strange pre-Adam race of men that once lived upon the earth in that fictional gap period that is supposed to have fallen between Genesis 1:1 and Genesis 1:2. The problem with that theory is there's not a shred of biblical evidence of that such gap period ever existed. That idea was born in the feverish minds of those who were panicked by the assertions of the evolutionists and who thus sought to force the Bible into harmony with evolutionary chronology. How could there have been a pre-Adam race of men if Adam was the first man? 1 Corinthians 15:45. Others have contended that demons resulted from the cohabitation of angels with some of the women who lived before the flood. This theory is based upon a misunderstanding of Genesis 6:1-4, and the phrase that states, "The sons of God came into the daughters of men, and they bore children into them." However, this cannot be correct since Christ clearly taught that angels are sexless beings incapable of such unions, Matthew 22:30. In the Genesis context, the sons of God are the righteous lineage of Seth, while the daughters of men represented the wicked descendants of Cain. Other suggested views of the identity of demons are these. First, demons may have been the spirits of wicked dead among dead men among God, in harmony with his divine purposes, permitted to leave the Hadean realm to indwell some people. Alexander Campbell argued this position in his lecture on demonology found in the volume Popular Lectures and Addresses. Others have contended that demons were fallen angels who were allowed to escape their confinement to similarly accomplish some component in the divine plan, Jude 6. Charles Hodge, a leading Presbyterian theologian, in his work on systematic theology, contended for this viewpoint, which is most unlikely. Although that's what a lot of people believe. Regardless of the ambiguity relative to demonic origin, the New Testament clearly recognizes the fact of first-century demonics. So, from that, and everything I read, we don't know. I listened to some gospel preachers that preached on demons being fallen angels. And basically what they said is angels had a choice, right or wrong, and those that chose wrong were destined to the abyss, and the abyss opened up later and let the demons come out. And that's kind of putting two of these together, I know. But understand this. We don't know. But what was their purpose? What was the purpose of demons? In Matthew 9:33 through 35, Jesus showed his power over demons. In Mark 3:14 through 16, the apostles showed God's power over demons. So everything I've read, that demons' purpose was, and we're going to later on find out that demons, we don't have demons now, okay? Regardless of what grade you teach in school, okay? We don't have demons now, but demons were allowed then to show the power of God. And there's many other instances we can pull out about that. How did demons attack people? The different ways that demons attack people. Turn to Matthew 9:32. We're going to read 32 and 33. As they were going out, a mute, demon-possessed man was brought to him, and after the demon was cast out, the mute man spoke, and crowds were amazed, and they were saying, nothing like this has ever been in Israel. So, muteness. When the demon possessed people, they became mute. They couldn't speak at all. Look in Matthew 12:22. Then a demon-possessed man who was blind and mute was brought to Jesus, and he healed him so that the mute man spoke and saw. So we have to know that if the man was mute and deaf before Jesus healed him of the demon, and then he could speak, then the demon caused both. Look in Luke 8, and these are going to be in our text in a little bit, but if we go to Luke 8, 26 through 36. We won't read all of that, but we know that it caused the insanity. And we're going to talk about in a little bit why it would have caused the insanity. Physical strength in Luke 8, 26 through 36, we're also going to see in a little bit, we've already talked a little bit about, bound with chains, broke the chains. The physical strength of those that were possessed with demon was outstanding. The great power that they could have physically. All right, so let's go back to our story. Let's go back to Matthew 8. And let's talk about the encounter that they had with Jesus. 8:29, and they cried out, what business do you have with us, Son of God? Do you come here to torment us before the time? In Mark, we'll look at verses 6, starting 6. Seeing Jesus from a distance, he ran up and bowed down before him, and shouting with a loud voice, he said, what business do you have with me, Jesus, Son of the Most High God? I implore you by God, do not torment me. For he had already been saying to him, come out of the... Wait. Well, let me stop there for a second. Now I'm going to go ahead and finish it. For he had already been saying to him, come out of the man, you unclean spirit. And he was asking him, what is your name? And he said to him, my name is Legion, for we are many. And he begged him earnestly not to send him out of the country or out of the region. Let's look at Luke's account, starting in verse 28 and 32. And seeing Jesus, he cried out and fell down before him and said with a loud voice, what business do you have with me, Jesus, Son of the Most High? I beg you, do not torment me. For he had already commanded the unclean spirit to come out of the man, for it was seized him many times, and he was bound with chains and shackles and kept under guard, and yet he would break the restraints and be driven by the demon into the desert. And Jesus said to him, "What is your name?" And he said, "Legion," because many demons had entered him. And they were begging him not to command them to go away. We'll get to that in just a second. So they knew who Jesus was, right? They knew he was the Son of God. That's the first thing they recognized. When they said, "Don't torment us," what were they thinking? Don't torment us. They knew that Jesus had the power to expel them at that point. So they said, "Don't torment us." So when you think about it, they knew who Jesus was, and they said, "Don't torment us." So they believed in Jesus. Am I right? They knew he was the Son of God, and they knew that he could have the power to expel them, right? Now, just a side note on that, does that mean they're saved? Because they knew and believed in Jesus? No. Matter of fact, they shuddered, didn't they? If you look in James 2:19, even the demons believed and shuddered because they knew that Jesus had the power that he had. They knew he was the Son of God. So these demons that come to Jesus on this shore know that he's the Son of God, and they know who he is. When Jesus asked him, "What is your name?" Well, they don't give his name. He says Legion. Legion is basically a Roman troop of up to 6,000 people. So I'm going to tell y'all something. Sometimes Chris Bates has trouble with the little pieces in my mind telling me to do different things, and it confuses me. Just think if you had up to 5,000 things going on in your mind, controlling you. So I want you to get a picture of this demon. Okay? I'm Legion, which means the man did not answer. The man didn't say, "I'm John, I'm Bill, I'm Gary, and I got all these demons in me." No, because the legions were in total control of this man. If he wasn't in total control, number one, he wouldn't be living with the dead, and number one, he wouldn't be running around naked. If he had any sense about himself. So his name was Legion, up to 6,000 men. Demons, total control. The demons begged not to be expelled. Now, two different things. Number one, they begged not to be expelled out of the country. They begged not to be expelled to the abyss. So we know we can visualize in our mind what a country is, right? I'm going to be expelled out of Hines County. We can visualize what that is. You're going to make us leave this area and go somewhere else, right? Don't do that. But in one account it says the abyss. What is the abyss? That's a whole different story. We know the abyss, and we could read in Revelations, a dark, deep hole. There is no bottom. When you go there, you're in captivity forever. Now, some people think that's where demons came from, out of the abyss. They were allowed to come out of the abyss. But when we read in Revelation, that's where you go and you don't come back. So here are these demons now thinking, "Hey, don't make us leave. You know, we kind of like this body we're in. You know, we know who you are, but let's make a deal." Okay? They want to deal with God. So what do they say? One note where it says begging to be expelled. David Garland says, even the demons feared hell. Didn't that tell you something? Even the demons feared hell. So they make a deal. So these demons see all these swine, and they say, "Hey, why don't you allow us to go in these swine? Okay, that way we're not sent into the abyss, we're not sent out of the country. What about it? Let's make a deal. Well, let's talk about the swine for just a second. They numbered about 2,000. Mark 13 tells us that. They had a herder. Now, I read in one spot that says the herder was not the herder of the pigs. He was just a herder that was out in the field. Okay? And I don't know, it really doesn't matter, but there was a herder there with the pigs. There were about 2,000. It leads us to believe that it was a pig farm. Now, what problems do you think the Jews would have with a pig farm? They ain't going to eat it, right? All it's going to do is tear up. If you've ever been where there's wild pigs, or pigs in general, they just tear stuff up. So unless you're farming them, there is not a great need to have a herder and somebody to look after them. So, and that takes us back to this being a Gentile area. That the Gentile area would be more likely to eat pork and have a farm of pigs. So let's go back to granted request. He granted the request. So many times we hear that Jesus put the demons in the pigs, and he didn't. They put themselves there. Kind of like what we do, right? We make a deal with Jesus. Let us do this. It's the best thing for us. And then the next thing you know, it's not. And we want to blame Jesus for giving that to us. We did it to ourselves. We asked for that. So here the demons say, let us go into these swine, these pigs out here. Let us go into that, and we'll be fine. We'll have a host body, and we'll be great. So he granted their request, and they did. Then what happened? The demons within the pigs overpowered the pigs' thinking, caused them to go nuts. I watch a lot of Westerns. I watch a lot of cows, when they go on a stampede, and I kind of picture all these pigs take off running with no sense of where they are or what they're doing. These demons have them possessed, and what do? It says they go off a cliff. Am I right? Not if you think I'm right. Okay? They go off the cliff and they drown. So in my mind, I'm thinking, well, they ended up in the abyss anyway, didn't they? They went off a cliff, down into a hole, and they drowned. Funny story is, some of the research that I did, and this is funny, the things that you read, okay, is demons are scared of water. Why? Because they can't swim. Somebody wrote a story about that one time. If you want to Google it, it's an interesting story. Okay? The demons can't swim. I don't know. I tried to look at that into a little farther, and then I went on to something else. So let's talk about the town people. What happened after that? Let's read Matthew 8, 33 and 34. And the herdsmen ran away and went to the city and reported everything, including what happened to the demon-possessed men. And behold, the whole city came out to meet Jesus, and when they saw him, they pleaded with him to leave their region. Let's look at Luke's account, 8:32. Now there was a herd of pigs feeding there on the mountain. The demons begged, well, I read that part. And the demons came out of the man, entered the pigs, and the herd rushed down the steep bank and into the lake and was drowned. Now when the herdsmen saw what had happened, they ran away and reported everything to the city and in the country. And the people came out to see what had happened, and they came to Jesus and found the man with whom the demons had gone. We'll look at that in just a second. Let's go to Mark's account. Now there were a large herd of pigs feeding nearby. The demons begged, did that part. Jesus gave them permission. They came out. The unclean spirit entered the pigs. The herd rushed down the steep bank into the sea, about 2,000. They were drowned in the sea. Their herdsmen ran away and reported it to the city in the countryside, and the people came out to see what was happening. And then they came to Jesus and saw the man who had been demon-possessed. So the whole city came out because the herdsmen ran. Guess what happened? Jesus took the demon out of this man. Demons out of this man. They went into the swine. They ran off the cliff and they died. And the herdsman reported this to the city. The whole city comes running out. What happened? What happened? You would think that they would go, well, surely this is the Son of God. Look what he did. But instead, what did they do? Get out of here. Get your crew, get in that boat, and get back to your side of the Sea of Galilee. Why? Why do you think their response was like that? That's one of them. That's exactly right. We were manufacturing pigs. Why in the world would you hurt our economy? What are you going to do next? We may have another pig farm on the other side of the river or bank or whatever, but we're not going to, look, you just got to get out of here. You're hurting our pocketbook. The other thing is they really had not been real familiar with Jesus. So they were scared. Imagine if you saw with your own eyes what happened, went and told somebody else. They came out. You must have been pretty reliable because they knew what you said. You're scared. What in the world can this man do with us? We're not Jews. So how's he going to treat us? And the lost pigs. I had that in the notes. That's good. So, the unpossessed man. Let's look at the unpossessed man. Okay? Mark 5. And they came to Jesus and saw the man who had been demon-possessed, sitting down, clothed in his right mind, the very man who had previously had the legion. And they became frightened. Those who had seen it described to them how it happened to the demon-possessed man and all the pigs, and they begged him to leave their region. And as he was getting in the boat, the man who had been demon-possessed was begging him that he might accompany him. And he did not let him, but he said to him, "Go home to your people and report to them what great things the Lord has done for you, and now he had mercy on you." And he went away and began to proclaim in Decapolis, which is, I think, 10 cities, what great things Jesus has done for him, and everyone was amazed. And the people came out to see what had happened. And they came to Jesus and found the man from whom the demons had gone out, sitting down at the feet of Jesus, clothed in his right mind, and they became frightened. Those who had seen everything reported to them how the man who had been demon-possessed had been made well. And all the people of the territory and the surrounding region asked him to leave because they were overwhelmed by great fear, and he got in the boat and returned. But the man from whom the demons had gone out was begging him that he might accompany him. But Jesus sent him away, saying, "Return to your home and describe what great things God has done for you." So he went away, proclaiming throughout the city what great things Jesus has done for you. You know, Jesus, the guy wanted to go with Jesus, and Jesus said, "No, you stay here. Go back to your city." Now, what happens here? Now he's got a foot in the door in a Gentile region, right? That now when Paul or the other apostles or the disciples come around and they start teaching to the Gentiles, there's kind of like an open field. When they come in and go, "Hey, you know what? Remember that guy named Jesus? Remember the stories you've heard about this guy named Jesus that had all the power?" So it kind of opened the door for him for later when they go to the Gentiles. Now, I don't know that for a fact. I just kind of Well, number one, I assumed that. Number two, I read it in some of the accounts of the different people that I talked about. So anyway, that's the story, and I say story, that's the incident of Jesus casting out all the demons. At this point, does anybody have any questions or comments before we move on? Bottomless pit, yeah. And look, I dare not even get into that part. Number one, I wouldn't have had time. And number one, that's a deep subject, right? Bottomless pit. Okay, sir. Mm-hmm. Mm-hmm. Yeah. Mm-hmm. 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 Yeah, and then let me kind of say what you mentioned. I may say it a little different way because I can't remember everything you said. But our brother says that the devil has power. We know that, right? But we have power as well. Where does our power come from? Right here. We have the power of knowledge. We have the power to teach. We have the power to overcome evil. And is that kind of what you're mentioning there? That we have that power to overcome evil, and we do it through God's Word. That's why He gave it to us, to overpower it. And that comes to, do we have demons today? Well, I'm going to read a little part of Wayne Jackson again, and physically, we don't have demons. We may have demons that we conjure up, like we say, Flip Jackson, Flip Wilson used to say the devil made me do it and all, but let me read this from Wayne Jackson. And this is the reason we don't have literal demons. No modern day miracles. Finally, it must be observed that the ability to cast out demons was a miraculous sign which demonstrated that the person with the gift was a proclaimer of God's revealed truth. The gift was to confirm the divine message. Modern exorcists are constantly contradicting themselves and their fellow exorcists as well as the written word of God. There were testimony of self-incriminating. With the termination of the supernatural era of the early church, demon possession and the corresponding gift of expulsion ceased. Does it seem reasonable to assume that since there are no gift of demon expulsion available today, God would not allow demons to continue entering and afflicting His human creatures? That would certainly suggest an imbalance of power and would put man at a great disadvantage. A careful study of the New Testament data reveals a gradual cessation of demonic activity as the apocalyptic age grew toward its conclusion. Guy N. Woods, now the funny thing is when Gary used to always quote or talk about Guy N. Woods, I thought Guy N. was his first name, but his first name is Guy, his middle initial is N, and his last name is Woods. Just so y'all know, I gained that knowledge one day. He said this: Are people today afflicted by demon possession? Obviously not. Even a casual examination of the instances chronicled in the New Testament will show that the circumstances attending demon possession then are not characteristics of our day. Demon possession is not a phenomenon of this age, and affirmations to the contrary are seriously misguided. So y'all know that movie way back when, Exorcist, was not real, right? You know that priests are not going in and throwing holy water and taking 15 days to exorcise someone is not real. Okay, but the world, sometimes you'd be surprised how many stories I've read this week about how someone went in and got a demon out, they exorcised them. Now, I've got probably 0 minutes on my next topic, and that was Jesus eating with the sinners, and I'm going to do this one real quick. That is found in Matthew 9, Mark 2, and Luke 5. You can find that part. But what happens is Jesus, real quickly, I'm just going to give you the whole story. Jesus sees Matthew and he says, "Follow me." What does Matthew do? He follows him, right? Follow me. He goes with him. What was Matthew? He was a tax collector. Were tax collectors thought of very good people? No. In the Jewish community, you can imagine that Matthew was kind of an outcast because he was a tax collector. His job was to go out and cheat the other Jews for taxes. So he's not. And who do you think Matthew hung around? Do you think he hung around the greatest people? No. I'm sure he hung around other tax collectors, possibly harlots or whatever. So Jesus says, "Follow me," and Matthew followed him, and he became one of Jesus' crew. So Matthew decided, let's throw a feast. We're going to throw a feast for Jesus, and he did, and guess who he invited? His friends. What do we do today? We are sinners, so who do we want to invite to come to the Lord? Our fellow sinner friend, right? Who do we invite to church? We want to invite those that need Jesus. So that's what Matthew did. He invited those that he thought needed Jesus. So he did, and Jesus came, Jesus and his disciples came, and they were having a feast. The Pharisees came knocking. Now I say literally knocking. I don't know if they came knocking or how this happened, but the Pharisees came and they go, "Hey, what are you doing eating with sinners like this?" And I love Jesus' reply. Where'd he go? Tell me real quick, what was his initial reply? "Oh, I'm a physician. I'm a physician, and I came for the sick. The well don't need me. I came for the sick," signifying those that are sin are the ones that need me. Those that are well should already be following me. Okay? So really, right off the bat, he shut the Pharisees down, right? With that answer. Then they go into fasting. Why are you not fasting like John's followers? And Jesus had a reply for that. There was a time and a place for fasting, but right now, the bride is with bridegroom. I'm trying to hurry now. A bride is with the bridegroom. There is no need for fasting. We're here. So we get into, and Gary may have to touch on this next week, of fasting. Why did they fast during that time? Is fasting something we should be doing today? I think we're out of time, so I'm going to end it there. Thank y'all. Y'all have been kind.